Well, hello, I'm Jack Cox, author of Love Not Fear, and I'm back with my usual co-host, Paul Simon Smith.
Hello. I was just thinking, I really like our intro and the music, and then you
I've
played it
got
again. You must have read my mind. You must have read
too
me
heavy
mind.
a finger. Yeah, so you're famous, Paul. You've just been on the radio, so tell us about it.
I wouldn't go that far. It's actually like a pre-recording, so I've gone on to a Mintwave radio, they're called, and it doesn't come out for about a month. But yeah, they interviewed me, which was an experience because I've always been the interviewer when I've done these type of things. So to be interviewed was it was nice in a way because I sort of put my feet up and didn't have to worry too much about things, and just talked a lot about all my products that I sell and health things in general, and it was quite an enjoyable experience. Yeah, I liked it.
How did they find you? Through your channel?
It was a contact of mine. No, it was a contact of mine through my local action group, Community United in Thurrock.
Oh,
Somebody
yeah.
knew somebody that hosts a radio show, and the host is already very interested in health anyway. So she just sent her my information, and that was that. So yeah.
Sounds good. Sounds
It
brilliant.
was.
And you were telling me you've got something special lined up for Friday.
Yes, so on my YouTube channel, I'm going to be taking part in a shamanic cacao ceremony with a lady who's conducting it, and she'll be in Mexico at the time. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm not too sure what to expect, so anything could happen. But yeah, as people know, I sell cacao, and a lot of people ask me, is it ceremonial cacao? And when they first started asking me that, I wasn't too sure what they meant. So I looked into it, and the information you get on it online is quite vague and quite varied.
Yeah.
So luckily, this was through my our friend Marion Bevington, who's got a friend out there in Mexico who does all this type of thing and sells cacao. So yeah, we all linked up, and it takes place on Friday, which will be good.
Live on
Hopefully.
your YouTube channel.
I'm not sure if I think it's going to be recorded, but
Okay.
provided everything goes well, it will go out Friday night anyway, straight after we've done it.
All right. Well, we'll put the links below if you send them to me.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah,
When
cheers.
they're ready. When they're ready. So it's Valentine's Day. No,
Is
I'm not
it?
going to say Happy Valentine's. Paul. Don't get excited. But I prepared a little something about it, and I've also got a piece of prose by somebody else I'd just like to read out, and then we can move on to something else.
Brilliant.
Now I'm going to try the auto cue again, but if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and I'll end up ad-libbing it, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to take me off the camera while you do that, Jack? I don't mind.
I can do that. If you think that's an appropriate thing to do. Hang on, I'm all over the place here. What's going wrong? I don't know what's going on here. Hang on. Talk amongst yourself.
He's had all week to practice, people. What's he like, eh?
I've got all day. There we go. Right, okay. St. Valentine's Day. Hang on. I'll get it right one day. St. Valentine's Day occurs 2 weeks after Imbolc, also known as Candlemas. New life is stirring in the belly of Mother Earth. Animals and birds are preparing to pair off, ready for another mating season. This is the time of year, traditionally, when the young man or the old fool confess his love for the very special lady who has captured his heart. Today is a day for lovers, but let's remember that there are many different forms of love. How can 4 letters possibly convey such a wide range of emotions and ideas? So let's spare a thought for those who are not in romantic relationships at the moment, but love deeply or are loved deeply anyway. You may be deeply loved and not even be aware of it. Or you may be aware of it but feel unable to reciprocate because of past hurts or deep trauma you are still carrying, or perhaps you just don't fancy the guy. On this day especially, it's important to show your self-love. If no one is willing to go with you, take yourself on a date. Pamper yourself. So many lonely people forget the importance of self-love. But self-love is a prerequisite before another can love you. And now I just want to read out something else here that I've prepared. The auto cue seems to be working, touch wood. Be there in a second. Love Isn't Always Hearts and Flowers by Donna Ashworth. Sometimes love is asking if you've remembered to take your vitamins or drunk enough water. Love is a friend who checks on you, even when you say you're fine. Love is a family member who worries you're making the wrong choices. And that can often feel like anything but love. But the truth is, they live in fear of you getting hurt because they feel every inch of your pain along with you. Love can come in all shapes and sizes, but never does unconditional love look like an expensive gift or a romantic weekend away. That's just the frosting. You're more likely to find it in a cup of tea made just for you. Love is real and ugly and shouty sometimes. Lots of tears and lots of pain as the people involved break and bond and grow together as humans. Valentine's Day should be about counting all the love you have in your world and giving gratitude for it. May not look like a steak dinner for 2 or the vegetarian equivalent, and that's okay. If you are loved, my friend, at all, you are blessed. And if you have found some love for yourself along the way, then you are really winning in the game of life. So what's your thoughts on that one, Paul?
Very nice, mate. Very nice. I thought it was interesting when you said spare a thought for those not in a loving relationship. I think that's very important, and I will pass those sentiments on to my wife later on today.
No, you don't mean a word of it.
No, I
I'm
don't
sure
really.
you two, I'm
I
sure
don't
you two
mean
are like
because she's
that.
watching. Yeah, we're very close. Yeah.
You've got a
Yeah.
lovely wife. Look after her.
Oh, I certainly will, mate. I certainly will. She looks after me. Somebody's got to, I suppose.
No, you wanted to say something about your group that you're running down
Yeah,
in
we had a really good meeting on Sunday, yesterday. Yeah, yesterday, at our local pub. It went really well. There was about 15, and we're bonding. It's the second time that I've gone. And initially, when you meet up, you're all strangers, you know, so you're trying to get to know each other. But we're sort of moving past that stage now, and it's we're really bonding really nicely. Um, as far as the community garden is concerned, talks are still ongoing with the council. But what we are going to do in the very near future, possibly this weekend, is do a Rebels on about protest. I don't know if
brilliant.
you've come across this group before,
Yeah,
Jack. There's yeah,
absolutely.
quite a famous group. They can be found on Telegram, and I think they've got a website as well. And the basic premise
I'll put the
is
links below.
top man. Yeah, the basic premise is that you, as a group, you get together on a roundabout where lots of cars will see you with your banners, protesting everything there is to protest at the moment, which is quite a lot. So, and you either get honked, like, you know, or you might take some abuse. Who knows? But the important thing is that we get the message out there. You know, it's visible because there was 3 million people a few days ago that converged on the Parliament building in Canberra, in
Yeah,
Australia. Now, I don't have a TV, but as I understand it, and I've looked today online to try and find stories, mainstream stories on what took place in Australia. Nothing from the BBC that I could see, nothing from ITV, nothing from Sky. 3 million people. That's like three Woodstocks
yeah.
and nothing. It's incredible. I mean, how blatant do things have to get now? Why can't they just show it? Why can't they show it? You would think that's news that 3 million people converge on the Capitol building in Australia to try and get their message across, and complete and utter blackout.
But the
Unbelievable.
mainstream media, the BBC, the ITV, all that lot, the equivalents in other countries, they're not news. They're not news channels. They're
No,
propaganda
propaganda
channels,
channels. Yeah, I do realise that. Yeah,
and
but
they only want to push the official narrative. They're not
yeah,
interested in other points of view or the truth. They just want to push. I had a very sad experience today. I must say, a very sad experience. You know, I've set up this group for Juliet, this Friends of Healing Water Sanctuary
yeah, yeah,
Facebook group.
yeah.
And I don't know whether you know, but she did a beautiful thing last night, and she's planning on doing it at 9 o'clock every night. I'll put the link to that below as well, where she just rings a bell for the freedom fighters all over the
Yeah, I
world,
did
the
see a
people
little
that
bit of
are
that. Yeah.
standing up.
Hmm.
It's only a minute or two. It's very beautiful. And I had somebody come on the Friends of group saying, who is this freedom for and where? So I replied, I said, well, you know, I'm replying to Juliet's post, and it's not my place to speak for Juliet, but as far as I'm concerned, we're talking about all freedoms for all people everywhere. She shot back and said, I hope that doesn't include the people who aren't taking the jab. And I thought, hello, what are you doing in this group?
Yeah, exactly. That's very interesting.
Healing Waters is a beautiful, magical place. And it's a place where there is no discrimination. They don't care whether you've had the jab or whether you haven't, or whether you wear a mask or whether you haven't, or any of that sort of BS. That's up to you. And I'm afraid after explaining all that to the lady and said that she ought to be getting her news from broader sources, I had to remove her from the group.
Mm.
And that's sad.
Well, it is, but I think these people are called trolls, aren't they? They deliberately, and you do get these people, they deliberately try and stir things up on these platforms and websites and things. You know, it's they've got nothing better to do apparently. That's very
Yeah,
sad. I mean, even though I've been awake for a long time now, 15 years or so, but I still find it very difficult to understand that kind of mentality where somebody is saying, that there shouldn't be a choice. Why can't there be a choice? It's just
absolutely.
ridiculous. In what, you're talking about medical tyranny, political tyranny, and there is a certain percentage of people out there that are all in favour of it. But then I guess that's how the Second World War started. I don't know, but it's frightening. We've got,
She
by sorry,
started
Jack,
going on
we've
about the
got some
science.
comments. We've got some comments coming in, mate.
Oh,
Just
sorry,
so you
mate.
know.
Yeah, no, you know I'm blind as a bat. Oh, Karen's here. Hello, Karen. I'm glad you can make it.
Hello, Karen.
And Teresa here. Hi, guys. I'm
Never heard of
watching.
her.
And yeah, some of you can't be here, but if you do manage to come on later, that'd be wonderful.
That'd be good. Hello, Lisa. Lisa Jackson's here. Hello, Lisa. Thanks for joining us. How did you hear about us?
Lisa's my friend from the Stafford group.
Oh, okay. Oh, nice to meet you, Lisa.
So yeah, welcome, Lisa. Glad that you're here.
Hope you're a keen gardener.
Oh, she is. But you weren't there on Saturday, were you, Lisa? So maybe not. I'll talk about that in a minute, which is what our group is doing. We're setting up our own community garden. I'll talk about that in a minute. But going back to this woman on the group, she started to say that the science should override personal opinion.
Yeah, which science?
And I just wrote back and said, yeah, I'm not prepared to argue with you on this. It's not the right place, but just bear in mind that the science isn't settled. It can never be settled because new things are being discovered all the time. And just think about thalidomide and DDT.
Exactly.
But obviously, as you say, she's obviously not the right fit for the group. So with all love,
Exactly.
I'm afraid I had to
Exactly.
remove her.
As my sister-in-law recently taught me a very valuable lesson. She said, when you're engaging with people like that are, pretty much deliberately trying to wind you up, you end the message with love. What I'm saying to you is meant with love. And that's a very powerful thing to do, I think.
Always with love. I mean, we have to respect people that have different opinions. I know Karen and I have different opinions on this particular subject, and we're not going to be talking a lot about that. So don't worry, you don't have to disappear because we're not going to be talking about that. But we respect each other's opinions. And why can't people just stay friends? This is,
I know. It's
people who have different opinions can't just stay friends.
having all these various opinions makes life more colourful, surely. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I would
But
have
according
thought
to
so.
the mainstream media, there's only one opinion. You can't have any other opinions, and that's
So
horrible.
enough of conspiracy theories. Let's just talk about what we're actually doing. You've talked about what you're actually doing to make the world a better place. And what we're doing here in Stafford at the moment, we've got a group together that we're calling it's been going for some time. I'm quite new to it. Called the Stafford Tree of Life. And we've got a community garden. Or we're in the process of having a community garden. I went down with a load of the others, about, I don't know, 8 of us there, 6 of us there, on Saturday to see the land. It's a huge piece of land, but it's very, very badly overgrown with brambles and stuff. But hopefully it's all going to go ahead. And I'll be posting regular updates about what we're doing.
And why do you, sorry, Jack, but why do you think that a community garden is really important?
Food, food is the most important thing food and shelter. Most people have got their shelter sorted. Unfortunately, in the world we live in today, if you actually look at it, very few people have got their food strategies sorted. Most people's food strategies consists of going to the supermarket, and they've got no contingency plans for what to do if the shelves are empty, or if some government initiative makes it illegal for them to go to the supermarket. Hopefully, it looks like in this country, at least, we're stepping back from that brink now. But this is not just for this one country. This is for everywhere. If we can set up every town, every city, every district can set up a community garden to provide food for the community. Now, at the moment, we're just thinking about providing it for the 6 or 8 of us, or however many eventually get involved, plus surplus to give away to the local food bank.
Brilliant.
But the thing can grow. And as I've spoken on this channel before, my idea eventually, with community gardens in general and with ours in particular, is to throw them open to non-gardeners, to people with other skills. And if the local plumber and electrician come on board, for instance, and provide their services to the members free of charge, we'll feed them. This way we can build up a community, not just a community garden, but a whole community of people with different skills, whatever those skills may be. Everything is needed apart from banking and accountancy. No money changes hands. We all just help each other out. And this, to me, is the way that we move from our present society, our present money-based society, rooted in fear and meanness, towards a society based on love and generosity. And that, to me, is what I mean when I talk about the new Earth, or the age of Aquarius, or fifth dimensional consciousness, or whatever you want to call it. It's love and generosity. It's not bean counting. It's not counting the cost. I've done this much for you. You've got to do this much for me. I'll only give you that if you give me this. Forget it, man. To hell with it. We've been doing that for too long. We've been doing that for 4,000 or 5,000 years, possibly longer. It's time to stop.
When did you write your book, Jack? What year was it? Was it 17?
Oh, I wrote my book, 4 years ago now?
Yeah, about 17,
5
18, yeah.
5 years ago, yeah.
You couldn't have timed that any better, mate. You couldn't have timed it any better, because your book came out just before what's pretty much a mass awakening. At the start of 2020, people were red-pilled in their masses, So it is what Jack's talking about is a real opportunity to form local small groups and try and put into practice everything that he just said. And it's small beginnings, but it will build. What's that saying? If you build it, they will come.
Absolutely. That's what we've got to do. I think it was Einstein, wasn't it, who said that don't try to do, I can't remember word for word, but paraphrasing it, don't try to take down the present system, build a new one to replace it, and the old one will fall apart. Something like that, anyway.
Yeah, makes sense, doesn't it?
A lot of people want to take down the present system, and I say it's pointless trying to do that until we've got something to take its place.
I think the only other idea I've heard on that was, the American Congressman Ron Paul. He said that he would reverse engineer taking down the government, to do it in incremental steps so that you wouldn't cause initial carnage by just getting rid of it in one fell swoop, sort of thing. You could reverse engineer it maybe. But what you're talking about with building small groups and exchanging things and working together, and that's the most important part of it, as far as I'm concerned, definitely. But
Absolutely. We don't have to take down the old system. We can just make it obsolete.
hmm, hmm. Well, I think it is anyway.
And we start doing that by I don't want to get into all the conspiracy theory stuff here. This isn't the right place for it. But most of us know about the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset, and the fact that the World Economic Forum, which is a huge power grab, represents the 1,000 or so biggest corporations in the world. And the way to take those corporations down is to stop feeding them, to stop doing business with their companies and the smaller companies and groups of companies that they own. We covered this in a previous episode, so I don't need to go into it
What
in
you
any
just
depth.
said there, Jack, it reminded me of my morning. This morning, I went shopping this morning, and I went to the butchers, my local butchers. I went to my local greengrocer who's got a market stall in the town. I went somewhere else. I did a little bit of shopping in the supermarket, but I tried to spread everything around. And what I find is it's a much more enjoyable experience that way, because generally speaking, I'm not a fan of shopping. But when you go and have a little chat with your local butcher and you have a laugh with your greengrocer, it's much better than just walking around some like sterile, artificially lit, with crap music in the background usually. It's just a horrible thing.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Good evening, Abigail. Late again. You're very,
Yeah,
very
Abigail.
welcome. Whatever time you come, you're very, very
Yes,
welcome.
always very welcome, Abigail. Part of the tribe.
Yeah. Let's just start using local companies. Certainly for food. Go your own, but short supply lines. We're sourcing food from all over the flipping globe.
Exactly.
It's just not sustainable.
Yeah. Plus, it's healthier to eat more seasonally anyway.
And
So
it's
try
more
and eat
fun.
seasonally and more fun.
It's
Yeah.
more fun.
Totally agree. We are down to our last greengrocer in our town, says the girl. I know. Can I just? I remember because I'm 46. I'm 47 in April,
You all get.
and sorry, you
You all get.
heard that. I can't swear on this channel, Jack. Yeah, so I can remember being a 5-year-old, my mum walking me around the high street in Brentwood in Essex, and I can remember butchers, independent bakers, greengrocers. I can remember a massive fishmongers, all of these traders in the town. And you go there now to Brentwood High Street, it's wine bars, supermarkets, a few chain stores, and that is it. It's crap. We've lost so much. It used to be a bit of an adventure, going to all these different traders and stuff. It used to be
Yeah.
an enjoyable experience talking to all these local personalities, at the market and things. And now we've just lost so much, and all down to greed. And
We
we're
used
unhealthier as well, because the food we get from supermarkets isn't really food. Most of it's processed. Most of it's crap.
most
So
of it's crap.
yeah,
It's
we need
very
to go back to the old days.
certainly in my local Tesco's. There's hardly any organic food at all on offer.
Yeah, very little choice on that front. And even if it is organic, how long's it been sitting there on the shelf? How good was the soil that the crop grew out of? Because
Yeah.
that's where the nutrients come from, is the soil. So you're better off growing your own grub.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. When I was a kid, I was the same as you. My mum used to take me to the butchers and the grocers and the greengrocers and the fishmongers. It's all little shops, fresh fish on slabs.
Mm.
You get that smell of it. You just don't get the smell of it in a supermarket
Very true. Very true.
fish counter. And they were all independent businesses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now they're all owned. I don't want to generalize, but they're mostly owned by these big corporations that we're talking about that have taken over the world.
Yep.
acquisitions,
Mm.
bigger fish swallowing up smaller fish, swallowing up smaller fish.
Not many
Sure,
people know
they're
this,
going
Jack, but
everywhere.
as I work in the health industry, I know for a fact that Holland and Barrett used to be owned by the Carlyle Group, and the Carlyle Group are weapons dealers. So people were buying their supplements off weapons dealers, you know, and a lot of these other health shops that you get in the town, they're owned by the pharmaceutical industry, and they sell you crap supplements. So you think it's rubbish, all this, it doesn't work, it's just expensive urine and all that rubbish, and they go back to their drugs, and that's just it's a racket, mate. It's an absolute racket.
Right, quick plug, unashamed plug. Get your nutrients from Nutrient Nirvana.
Definitely
You get
high quality, non-GMO.
Yeah, you get Paul supplements. I mean, they're really
all,
good. I have Paul supplements, and they're really, really good.
all naturally derived. I make a lot of them myself as well, so it's like
Especially,
old school stuff.
especially your, especially your magnesium, mate. That's brilliant.
It's my bestseller. It's my bestseller. I'm really chuffed with that, you know, because magnesium is probably the most needed nutrient out there at the moment, you know, because we're all so deficient because of the spraying and because of the stress levels. Oh,
I
thank you,
started
Abigail.
panicking. I
Abigail's on
start.
the Abigail's on my magnesium as well. Thank you very much, Abigail.
Yeah,
I was
no, it's
asked,
good stuff.
sorry,
Good
Jack, but I
stuff.
was asked on the radio today, going back to the radio interview I did, I was asked what made me do this, what made me set up a supplements company.
Yeah,
And the simple answer was that at the time, there was virtually nobody that I knew that didn't have some sort of syndrome or illness or disease or whatever it was, you know. And these people weren't necessarily all in their 80s or 90s or something. They were like my age or younger
yeah.
sometimes. And autoimmune disorders, that it was just like crazy. And that made me research natural health and health in general as well. And that led me to starting a supplements company because, as I was saying to this lady on the radio today, my philosophy is based really just around four nutrients: vitamin C, vitamin D, magnesium, iodine. If you're supplementing with those four because they're hard to get in food, then you're going to go a long way to avoiding sickness, a long way, just with those four supplements, those four nutrients. So, you know,
Well, we said, my generation said back in the 60s, showing my age now, aren't I? That if you just fertilize the fields with petrochemicals, NPK, which is derived from petrochemicals, and you don't put any life back into the soil's going to die. It's not going to be sustainable. And we're
it pretty
seeing
much
that
has.
now.
Yeah,
We're really seeing that now in the poor nutrient quality of the food we eat.
100%. Exactly right, Jack. You know, the fields. I remember when I was growing up, I lived close to a farm, and me and my mum used to walk up to the farm shop every day, and we used to walk past the fields, the monocrop mega fields that we see
Yeah,
nowadays in hog
yeah.
farms. And at certain times of the year, I used to say to my mum, "Mum, why is that earth and soil red? It was like a dark red color. It looked like the planet Mars, and of course, Mars is a dead planet, you know. So that is why it's just so wrong. Everything we do with growing food on an industrial level on that scale is just totally wrong, inverted, and just
Yeah.
crazy stuff, you know."
First thing they did was to rip out all the hedgerows,
Yep, and the trees.
so all the nesting birds um,
Yep,
died off,
and plus the leaves would replenish the soil with nutrients, you know,
just to make the fields bigger, so they could get bigger machines in.
all about that. Hmm.
People say, I'm going back to early arguments now. We were making back in the 60s. They were saying, "Oh, we got all these billions of people to feed now." I think it was probably 5 or 6 billion in those days. I don't know. Less than probably about just over half what we got now. We must have intensive agriculture. And I say, but there's two types of intensive agriculture. There's capital intensive agriculture, which is what you're talking about, and there's labor intensive agriculture. put people back on the land.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Yeah, get
You've
them off
got
the
people.
get them off the welfare system and get them
Yeah,
working for their money. Give them more a sense of empowerment and self worth, and doing something in a good cause. You know,
you've got people starving on the dole, which for those of you from overseas, that's what we call the unemployment benefit, unemployment welfare. Um, while we've got the opportunity to employ people rather than machines. But the whole economics of the thing is upside down. The supermarkets have forced the price of food so low, artificially low, that no, people won't pay more for food. So they won't pay more to have people on the land. I mean, it's got to be done as cheap as possible. But they don't realise that they're also paying for all these people on the dole through their tax money.
It's just reminded me, Jack, of a story I saw this week. The world's first insect farm for human consumption in France. And they're basically producing insects for human consumption. It's the first factory in the world. And it's all being done by robots and AI. So there are no humans. There's not even any humans there working. It's all, and it's, you can look this up. It's in France. It's the world's first insect farm for human consumption. So that's where we're going. You can either come with me and Jack and go back to the old ways, the best ways, or you can, you know, start eating beetles and spiders produced by robots. It's up to you.
Can you read what Abigail
Certainly,
said?
mate. Yeah, with Abigail's on fire this evening. Abigail says, our family is from farms in Ireland. My brother would go earlier than us, and we would go later. Dad would pack the car full of veg and duck eggs. All duck eggs, my favourite.
Ah,
That's
brilliant.
brilliant.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
brilliant. It's
yeah,
lovely stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
lovely.
I mean, with this community garden that we're putting up, there's so much bramble on there, but it's such a big plot of land. People are talking about cutting down the brambles. I said, no, leave them. You know, we'll prune them, we'll tidy them up, but you know, at least for the first few years while we're baking the land in, leave them. It's food for us. It's food for the birds.
Yep, absolutely, mate.
And any surplus, if there is any surplus, which is unlikely, can all be composted.
Yep, that's what we do.
Food, not
Food.
lawns. Grow your own. It's better for you
Oh,
and your family.
well
Absolutely,
said, Abigail.
Abigail.
Well said, 100%.
Absolutely.
And I caused the right ruckus on Facebook at the beginning of in March, April 2020, because I went loopy loo and I was telling everyone, you know, this is going to lead to food shortages, this situation in the long term. So the best time ever is now to start growing your own food. The amount of abuse I got for saying that was ridiculous. I just couldn't believe it. You're a conspiracy theorist, scaremongering, blah, blah, and all the rest of it. Some of my friends were saying this to me, I just couldn't believe the mentality.
It's already happening.
Yeah, it's already. And look at the situation in Canada with the truckers. If they lose, if they're told that they have to have a thing to work, look at all those truckers that are going to be out of the equation. Who's going to be delivering the food to people in Canada? Talk about shoot yourself in the foot, Trudeau. You idiot.
Yeah, I could say something else there, but I won't.
I nearly did, mate. I reined it in at the last second.
Yeah, foot in the foot, absolutely in the foot.
Yeah, yeah. It's a family show, mate. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I forgot what I was going to say now, so don't worry about it.
Well, that's all right. We was talking about food, growing your own food, the benefits of which are obvious. And with Abigail saying in France they have been. Yes, I saw this, Abigail. In France, they are being attacked by the police. So the French truckers today, I saw this on Russia Today. The police, like the truckers were in cafes and restaurants eating some food or whatever. The police went inside the cafes and restaurants with tear gas inside the cafes and restaurant. And the last time I looked, lots of innocent bystanders had been injured, including children. This, I mean,
There's got to be a crime against humanity, hasn't it?
I mean, what? Like tear gas inside a cafe? What on earth? I mean, it's just like evil. That's the word. It's evil, you know.
Yeah.
And as I keep seeing on Facebook, you know, with these memes that people that are just obeying orders, you will be held accountable for your actions, and quite rightly as well. When they post coppers, end up in all sorts of trouble because that is just disgusting. Yes, quite right, Abigail. She says it will make people turn on them. 100%. Well, hopefully it should do. I mean, the person that Jack was talking about earlier on his group that was not very nice. I mean, they would probably applaud things like that because they're just nutters. But
You've got
yeah,
to understand that people are living in fear.
yep.
And I don't, whatever your opinion, I'll be friends with you. I don't care. As long as you respect my opinion, I respect yours.
Mm-hmm.
But people are making choices out of fear. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about what we can do about it. So if it's okay with you, we've got a bit of time.
Yeah.
And Teresa's not come on yet, so she probably won't. She may. If she comes on, we can
Might
always
do, yeah.
extend
She's just got no one to look after her kids at the minute.
Yeah, we can always extend the show a little bit if she comes on later.
Not too long, I've got had dinner.
Yeah. I just want to say a little bit. Again, it's something I prepared, so I'm afraid it's going to be coming off the audio queue. But very much on the theme of community gardens and what people can do, not only as community gardens, but in their own gardens. Oh, I know what I was going to say earlier, very briefly. We're talking about crops, not lawns. There's an initiative in America that I've seen because they tend to have these big open plan estates where people are actually sowing food, growing food in their front gardens. We tend to grow it in our back gardens here in England, in Britain, and in most of Europe. But they're starting to do it in the front gardens. And the reason for that is they can then engage passers-by in conversation about what they're doing. And I think that's a brilliant initiative. So I just want to read this little thing. I mean, I'll just read a little bit now, and I'll probably read a bit more to you next week. Tips on growing a survival garden. A survival garden is not just any kind of garden. A survival garden is one that is carefully designed to yield enough crops for you and your family to live on in times of need. Your survival garden must provide enough calories for your entire family to not only survive but to thrive. It must supply essential vitamins, minerals, fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. If you were unable to leave home for an extended period of time, the ability to harvest fresh organic produce from your own garden would be a lifesaver. Don't expect to be a successful survival gardener overnight. It takes seasons of gardening experience, foraging practice, knowledge of saving seeds and propagating, along with a good pinch of luck to make it all work. But you have to begin somewhere. So where is that? In the planning and the layout of your survival garden. This is just as essential as buying the seeds. As for what kind of seeds to grow, try to avoid F1 hybrids because the seeds they set are not viable. You will need to purchase fresh seed every year. The aim is to grow enough for your family and a surplus to give away and share with the community. Several factors come into play when determining just how large your survival garden needs to be. How many people will you be feeding? What kind of crops will you be growing? What kind of quality of soil do you have? As well as what's the climate like where you live? Your level of experience. Becoming an efficient grower means using your space wisely. Growing vertically is a great way to grow more food in less space. You probably start off with about half an acre. If you've got half an acre, you may have less. Just use what you've got. And if you can acquire some more land or cooperate with other people. Now, this is a great thing about the community gardens, is you can all learn from each other. I was talking last week about reskilling. And if you can, but the great thing about a community is you can all learn skills from one another. So what do you think about that, Paul? Hang on, I've lost you. I've lost your sound. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm back. I'd muted myself.
Ah, all right.
Sorry, that was the cat. The cat was meowing, so I've muted.
We've got another comment from Abigail.
That's what I do, Jack. I have lots of fruit trees and veggies.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are you living now, Abigail? You're not in Ireland anymore now.
I think she's in Scotland, Jack.
You're in Scotland now, yeah. Yeah.
Does fruit and vegetables grow in Scotland? I wasn't aware of that. Only joking. I don't mean it.
Now, Jessica
Marie
is saying she enjoyed that and she could listen all night. Well, yeah. I hope you will.
I wonder if she's talking about you or me, Jack.
We're not finished yet. But anyway, yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying it. Yeah. When we get together, we waffle on a bit, don't we, Paul?
We do.
Sorry, you were saying something.
I can't remember now, to be honest, mate. What was we talking about?
As bad as me.
I know, it's been one of those days.
Abigail saying you're a cheeky bagger. Oh, I'm a cheeky bagger.
I know.
Well, maybe we're both a couple of cheeky buggers.
Yeah.
The book. What book, Jessica? My book?
Probably, I would have thought so. Love Not Fear.
My book.
It's a good book. I've read it. It's a good one.
Love Not Fear is available from Amazon. Yes, I know about Amazon. I shouldn't be using Amazon, but unfortunately, that's where the people are. In paperback and Kindle, and you can get a free download from my website, a free PDF version from my website, lovenotfear.uk. So I hope you enjoy it.
Jessica's saying she was really liked you talking about growing food. That's what she was referring to. Can you tell us if you grow food, Jessica? Are you growing your own food at the moment, or are you thinking about doing that? Whereabouts are you in the world?
I think maybe she wants a book on growing food. Can you recommend one, Paul?
Do you know, the funny thing is, the one I referred to was written in the Second World War. It's called Dig for Victory, and it's a brilliant book. It's so good. It takes you all through the year and where you should be and what you should be planting and what you should be harvesting at that certain time. It's a really great book, and it was written for people at the start of the Second World War, because they were obviously going on to rationing, so they were being encouraged to grow their own food. And it's very, very similar to the situation that we found ourselves in 2020 at the start of the supposed outbreak. Yeah, so Dig for Victory, if you get a chance, look out for that. It'll be on Amazon probably.
When I first started, I can't remember the name of it or the author, so it's probably not much use me telling you this. But I came across a very small, very small paperback book. This must have, I don't know when I first started, so I don't know how many decades ago that must have been. And it just went through crop by crop, all the main popular crops, not all the fancy stuff, although I think it mentioned fish chard and that kind of stuff. The perpetual spinach, which was all fairly new at the time. When to grow, how to grow, when to sow, when to harvest, how deep to sow, just the basic essentials. And a little section on what tools you need. And that's what got me started, and that's all I had for the first few years. That's all I needed. Who's the guy? The other guy, the guy that was on telly.
Monty Don.
No, the other guy.
Alan Titchmarsh. Alan Titchmarsh.
Titchmarsh.
Yeah.
He did a very interesting book, which I hope is still in print.
He knows his stuff.
And if you want to really get into the deeper side of on a bigger scale, then I highly recommend the books by John Seymour. Unfortunately, most of them are now out of print. I think his self-sufficiency guide is still in print. I learned a lot from him. I mean, I'm 99% vegetarian now, but I wasn't then, and I was particularly interested in his ideas about the traditional mixed farm or smallholding, where you have animals and crops, and the animals provide the manure for the crops.
Oh, and Abigail is saying she's got a few of Seymour's books.
Great.
So you're in good company there. Jessica Marie is saying, I live on a main road, so think the fumes on the road puts me off. What do you think of that?
It's not as bad as it used to be. Now we've got unleaded petrol. It was a big problem in the days of leaded petrol.
Ironically, the E10 petrol has got glyphosate in it.
Well, yeah, that's true.
You know, so I don't think you can let these things stop you. Plus, you can try and get an allotment in your local area. And even people who haven't got a garden or allotment, you can grow seeded sprouts, microgreens in your own property, and they're extremely nutritious things to eat.
Or just put a box hedge between your garden and the road. That'll stop most of the pollutants coming off the.
You can obviously clean up your veggies after you've grown them as well, you know, with apple cider vinegar, vitamin C powder in water. There's things you can do. So I wouldn't let that put you off, Jessica. I'd just go for it, you know.
Well, I think that's why in this country most people grow in their back gardens.
Yeah. Definitely.
And, most people have bigger back gardens than front gardens. The other thing people say is it doesn't look pretty, but you don't have to have pretty rows of everything, nice straight rows of everything. There are lots of colourful and ornamental edible plants that you can grow. And maybe I'll do a special on that next week. So tune in again next week. And you can put a variated cabbage in amongst your ornamental plants.
I want to add to that, Jack, because Jessica's just commented, I suppose all crops we buy anyway have fumes on. Exactly. Now, I wouldn't mind betting if you grow your own, even if it was in the front garden of your property, if you grew your own crops and didn't spray them, as opposed to the stuff you're getting from the supermarket, it's going to be much better quality what you're growing, and you'll know that when you taste it as well, because the food tastes so much better when you've grown it yourself.
I
So
think we've convinced her.
I hope so.
Well
I
done.
hope
Well
so. I
done,
hope you
Jessica.
do get round to it, Jessica, because it's very empowering. It's a really great experience, the whole thing, you know, and you're going to be healthier and you're going to provide your family with health. So it's a
And
win-win.
in Kent, you're in one of the best climates in England for growing food.
Mm.
That's why they call it the Garden of England, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so she's convinced, Jessica. So I hope you come back to us and let us know how you're getting on. Jack's got a lot of experience with allotments, haven't you? You had an allotment in Spain for 17 years or something like that?
Well, I had my own land. I had
Mm.
10,000 square meters of my own land in Spain.
Mm. Nice.
But unfortunately, my water supply packed up,
Oh dear.
which is
That
why I
is a
moved
problem.
off the land.
Yeah, sure.
Because I had a spring
Mm.
and a stream flowing through the land,
Mm.
right through the middle of the land.
Mm.
And after a few years there, I'm afraid it dried up, and we don't know why. So it would have cost too much to have a well put in, so I had to give it up. Well, it was beautiful. It was on top of a mountain.
Just
And
sorry, Jack. Sorry, go on, carry on.
also because I'm a bit of a nomad. I've always been a nomad. I mean, I can't settle down. I get itchy feet anywhere. If I'm in the same place too long, I get an itchy feet. Um, yeah. I've had several different allotments in this country. I had one in Lowestoft. I've had one. I've had lots of them, 3 or 4 different ones. And the trouble is, I keep moving on after a year or two. So I do the first couple of years, which is all the hard work. Just so I've got it more or less as I want it, it's time to move on.
Yeah. Sorry, Jack. Jessica Marie has asked, is it true that Rockefeller has tampered with seeds, GMO, etc.? I do believe that's true. I'm just thinking of what they call the Formula One varieties, is it, of seeds?
F1 hybrids, which is what
F1
I was
hybrids,
talking about.
yeah. I'm not sure.
F1 hybrids just means it's not GMO.
No,
F1 hybrids just
yeah,
means it's the first generation of hybrids,
yeah.
and it's only capable. They're sterile. They're only capable of
Yeah,
producing,
they won't reproduce themselves, will they? I tend not to bother with those.
or they
Um,
won't reproduce true from
yeah,
seed.
yeah.
Um,
I think Bill Gates
so
is the big baddie now at the moment as far as GMO farming is concerned and seeds and stuff. He's the one I now think he owns most of the farmland in America. He's been buying that up over the last year or two. And almost certainly it's because he's going to grow GMO crops. So, and America at the moment, their food supply is just shocking. What they eat and stuff, is much worse than Europe and much worse than this country. It's terrible, really.
you don't have to believe in any conspiracy theories. Just look at what's actually happening now. Who's buying up the land? I mean, you can find out from the land registry who's buying up the land.
Well, Bill Gates is in America. That's confirmed.
The big corporations and insurance companies and people like that are buying up the land in Britain.
Mm.
Have been doing for ages. Very few of the farms now are actually independently run. Most of the farmers you see today are just farm managers.
Just changing the subject very slightly, Jack. Have you heard that? Have you heard of BlackRock and Vanguard?
Yeah, yeah.
These two huge corporations that basically own half the world or whatever. They're now buying up large areas of suburbs, buying up residential areas. So they're now going to rent properties to people like in mass or whatever. So that's a new area that they're getting into. Is they're actually buying up loads of residential areas.
They are the 2 biggest members of the World Economic Forum.
Mm.
And look into it. I mean, most of the high street names that you're familiar with are owned by one of those two or managed by one of those two asset management companies.
Mm.
Look into it. I mean, don't take my word
Yeah.
for it. Look into it.
I mean, people think that Pepsi and Coca Cola are owned by Pep. They're not. They're both owned by BlackRock. So they're not in opposition with themselves at all. It's all the
That's
same
true.
company.
It's the same with politics. We're supposed to believe that different parties are in opposition to each other, in competition, but they're
Mm.
not. They're all part of the same show.
Yep,
It's just a show.
exactly.
It's like professional wrestling. I mean, people used to watch that and they used to think it was real, and then it was all came out that it was all fixed.
Mm.
And they went on watching it anyway. They didn't care.
Yeah, it's pretty much
And
like
I'm
what's
afraid
going
it's
on
the same with
today.
politics.
I'm sure that most people, even most normies, realise that Boris Johnson isn't really running the country. He's not really running the country. He just reads from an auto cue. You know, he's taking his orders from
He's
above.
taking his orders. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, look at the man. He couldn't even make a successful career out of journalism.
yeah. Sometimes I wonder about Boris. Is he genuinely a bit daft, or does he play up to that character? And in actual fact, he's quite intelligent. You know, off the camera. Who knows?
I've often worried about Boris, wondered about Boris, not worried.
Mm.
Um, because
Abigail's just made her thoughts very clear about Boris. She said, Doris is a twit. Yeah,
yeah, okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Completely concur with that one.
I don't know whether he's being bribed or threatened or a combination of the two. But I mean, they all go to the yeah. Well, we all know about it anyway. They all take their orders,
Mm.
and I don't want to say the name here because Juliet's been penalised by Facebook. And I'm feeling really guilty because I think it might be because I said the T word
T word.
in the comments.
Sorry, I'm being a bit dense at the moment. I know
The
the V word.
Canadian
Oh,
leader.
the so-called, yeah, I'm with you, Prime Minister,
So
yeah.
I'm not going to give his name here. You want to know who I
You
mean?
could say Turdo, couldn't you?
Yeah. I mean, he was one of the World Economic Forum's young leaders.
Mm. Yeah, he worked for the Rothschilds, didn't he?
I don't know about that, but
Pretty
he's
sure he
been
was a
groomed.
Rothschild banker as well, yeah.
He's been groomed.
Definitely, yeah. All MPs are bent all for the money. Definitely.
I
Definitely.
mean,
Yeah.
you've really. I don't want to get into conspiracy theories here too much, as you know. But you've really got to watch the World Economic Forum and just find out what they're after. Because we went into this 2 or 3 weeks back, but they're involved in a huge power grab at the moment, where because some of the corporations this is how big they are. Some of the corporations they represent are bigger economically, bigger than countries.
Mm. Yep.
They've organized it now so that they can sue national governments if they pass laws that restrict their monopolies.
Mm.
I mean,
Yep.
how crazy is that?
Mm.
And they've already made the World Economic Forum has already going back to the 90s been in cahoots with the UN. Kofi, what was his name? Kofi. I
Kofi
forgot his
Annan.
name. Yeah, Kofi
Kofi
Annan.
Annan.
He made a speech about it
Mm.
where he admitted it. He was proud of it.
Mm.
So that an organization which represents the 1,000 biggest corporations in the world now has a power sharing agreement with the UN and many national governments.
Mm.
That
Yeah.
is not democracy.
No. Yeah, Abigail said, yes, my son has an honours degree in political science. He says to me, watch the money.
What's the money? Yeah, well,
Exactly
most
right.
of you
Yeah.
know I spent a short amount of my career in journalism years ago, and the first thing they taught us was follow the money.
I
If you
bet they
want to know
don't
what's
teach that
going on,
anymore, though, Jack.
hmm?
I bet they don't teach that anymore, Jack.
I bet they don't know. It'd be too obvious, wouldn't it?
Mm.
But if you want to know what's really going on, don't listen to the official narrative. Follow the money. See who's getting rich out of it.
Can I ask you, Jack, something before, because we're over the hour now, so I was just going to ask you something before I have to go. You've said 2 or 3 times tonight, I don't want to talk about conspiracy theories. Can I just ask you, what do you mean by that precisely? What is a conspiracy
I
theory?
just feel, Paul, and we've had this conversation before, you and me, that in the past, this show has focused a little bit too much on what's wrong with the world and not enough on what we can do to put it right. And I think we need to refocus. You've suggested this to me. We need to refocus on the things the positive things we can actually do to put it right.
Solutions rather than
Solutions.
problems. I totally
People
agree.
know what the problems are. Most of the people that follow us already know what the problems are. We don't
Mm.
need to bring down the energy level by reminding
I
people of that.
totally agree, mate. I was just wondering because when you said that, I thought, well, we've talked about 3 or 4 different conspiracy theories already.
Well,
And
it's,
then
it's, hard- it's
I
hard
don't
not
really.
it's hard not to put the positive things that we're suggesting into a context. It's hard not to see them against the background of the world as it is at the moment.
Mhm.
This is one
Yeah.
reason I particularly wanted to get Honor Lottering on last week, and unfortunately she couldn't make it.
Mm.
She's so focused on the positive, on the uplifting, um, on the practical things. Oh, I love your cat. On the practical things that we can do.
Mm.
And the things we can do inside our heads, the things we can focus on inside our heads.
Mm.
Well, unfortunately, she had technical problems, and we've not yet been able to reschedule.
Are you going to get her back on? Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. I was going to say.
I hope so, but
Well, just to end it on a jovial note, Jack. I don't talk about conspiracy. Here she goes. I don't talk about conspiracy theories anymore because they've all come true. I've run out of them.
yeah, yeah. I'm going to do an unashamed plug before we end.
Okay.
I mentioned this last week. I'm starting another video series, which hopefully Paul will come in on at some point, but this is separate from the Love Not Fear. It's called Co-Creating the New Earth Together. And there's a Facebook group in running in parallel with this. And what I hope to do every week is to interview people who are making a difference in the world. And I particularly want to get Honor Lottering onto that if you'll come. But
Well, I'd love to come on occasionally, and that sounds brilliant, mate.
I'd love to have you on. That's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I've got a guest for this Friday. They're Fridays at 6:30. This show is Mondays at 6:30. That show is Fridays at 6:30. I've got a friend. I've got a guest booked for this Friday, who's going to talk about the alternative therapies that she's doing with children,
Really? Wow.
because it's so important to get children off to a good start.
Mm. Yeah.
Tomorrow's future, tomorrow's society is based on how we bring up our children now. So I'm going to be talking to her about that. And yeah, I want to hear very much about what you're doing, Paul. So I'd love to have you on one week. And
Lovely.
maybe another week, if you're up for it. I'm
Mhm.
dropping you in it now.
Mhm.
You could actually interview me on it.
Yeah, yeah, I'd be well up for that,
And
definitely.
we can talk
I
about
would
my
like
book
to.
and my ideas for a
It's
better
funny
world.
you should say that. It's funny you should say that because I'd had that idea a few days ago myself. So it's
Brilliant.
obviously meant to be. Yeah. And
Okay.
just one last thing, mate, before we go. Um, I'm also doing a different stream as well with Teresa, and it's going to go out on a Thursday, and it's going to be called History, Health, and Wellbeing. So
Brilliant.
it's a mixture of health and history, or to be more precise, stolen history and ancient history and all that kind of stuff. So we're looking forward to that. That'll be on a Thursday, I think, at 6 o'clock. So
Yeah, that's exciting. And I was very interested to hear that you're doing another interview with Ralph Ellis about, I can't say the words, can I? I'm going to be closed down. But we all know what I mean. Not weather, but it begins with a C.
yes,
And not
the,
alteration, but it also begins with a C.
the lurgy, the lurgy. It was actually
No,
it was very unexpected, actually, Jack, because we were talking about who was the real Shakespeare. He was talking then about climate change because he's also a climate
they're the
scientist.
words I didn't want to say.
Oh, sorry. See the CC. Anyway, but then he just went into this rant about it, and it was unplanned. And I'm glad I got it on camera. I'll be posting that tomorrow, probably. So
Brilliant.
look out for that, everyone. A new Ralph video, and I've still got to post part 2 of King Arthur as well, which will hopefully be this week at some point. So
Well,
watch out.
I've got to get that to you. I've
Yeah,
done the editing on it. I've got to get that to you. I'll see if I
brilliant,
can get it uploaded tonight.
lovely.
Because they
Cheers.
take a couple of hours to upload, so I tend to do them while I sleep, rather than tie up the computer during the day. But it's done.
Yeah, Jackie's very much the Steven Spielberg of the operation.
I'm just the nuts and bolts. I do the technical stuff. Paul's
Yeah.
a creative guy.
Yeah, sort of. Okay. I've got to shoot off, mate, because the
Great.
cat needs
Okay.
feeding and I need feeding. So
Right. Blessings to all of you. Happy Valentine's Day to all of
happy
you.
Valentine's Day. Yeah.
And
Have a nice evening. Thanks for watching, everyone.
I'll put all the links below.